They say your body sleeps and your soul takes a walk. I say that based on what I have read, heard, and cataloged, hundreds of sessions, dozens of transcribed readings preserved in the files that I work with. The archival readings do not prove a single metaphysical map beyond doubt, but they do form a pattern, recurrent imagery, repeatable techniques, and outcomes that were reported again and again by different people under different circumstances. Tonight, I want to show you what those files reveal about the nightly journeys we call dream travel, and to give you a 10-minute ritual, in the spirit of Cayce's bedside work, that you can use before sleep to calm a racing heart and, if you wish, to orient your dreaming toward healing instead of turmoil. If you value documented spiritual insight, stay with me to the end. Subscribe and like so you'll know when I post more of these curated readings and guided practices. Now settle in. Breathe slowly. I will be direct with you. The descriptions I offer are anchored in the documented sessions and in my years working with them. Where a reading reports healing or prophecy, I will say so. Where encounters turn difficult, I will say that too. And before any practice I give, you will get a clear safety note. If you have a history of dissociation, psychosis, or severe PTSD, consult a licensed mental health professional before attempting deep altered states. The framework I use comes from 3 recurring provinces in the archive: the borderland, the library, and the highest light. Think of them as 3 neighborhoods your soul frequents when it leaves the body. The borderland is the threshold where the living brush against the recently dead and earthbound spirits. The library is the collective storehouse, what many readers call the Akashic records, where memory and lineage can be consulted. And the highest light is the domain of attunement, prophecy, and mission, a place described in the files as the realm of counsel and directive, sometimes named Christ consciousness, or the sphere of one's guides. I will tell you one compact case from each province, as recorded in the files, and then we will build toward a ritual that combines calming, centering, and a protective envelope for the night. The first file I want you to picture is a living room at dusk. The client was a nurse in her early 40s who had lost her father to a sudden heart attack 3 months earlier. The reading, recorded in a session labeled Reading 472, reports that she began the night with choking grief. The sound of a television droned on, the smell of tea and medicinals lingered, her chest tightened. According to the session transcript, as she slipped into the border, she found herself standing by a porch she had known as a child. The air in that threshold was cold like autumn and smelled faintly of pipe smoke and lemon oil. Then, the files state, a figure stepped forward, her father, and spoke to her without speaking. The content carried as memory images rather than speech. He placed his hand where her heart hurt, and, in the reading, she reported that a warmth spread through her sternum and that the remembered tightness loosened. The case report frames this as contact and consolation. The border facilitated a reparative exchange, enabling a conversation that the living had not yet had during daylight. That vignette matters because the files repeat it. Border encounters often deliver closure, simple counsel, or a remembered lullaby that one needs to hear. But the readings also warn that not every presence at the threshold is benign. Several sessions describe shadowed, tethered figures, what the researcher calls earthbound spirits, who resist release and seek attachment. In one such report, the person described pressure behind the eyes, sudden fatigue at the start of a dream, and the sense that their attention was being pulled in 2 directions. The archivist's notes consistently underlined the importance of intention setting at the threshold. Call the name of your guide, hold the image of white light, and remember the silver cord, the luminous tether that, according to the readings, keeps you bound to the body. The silver cord, the files say, is both safety and lifeline. The ritual work I will offer pays special attention to it. The second province held in the files is the library. When the readings use that term, they mean a place that reads like an inner archive. Rows of luminous spines, scent of old paper and incense, a steady low hum that the subjects sometimes hear as a chord of bells. The library is where past lives, blueprints, and karmic patterns are said to be accessible. Listen to one example. Reading number 1319 concerns a 37-year-old man who came to the work desperate to understand recurring dreams of drowning and failure. In his waking life, he had been a manager whose decisions haunted him. He reported sleeplessness and a hollow nausea that came at dawn. In the documented session, he describes walking through aisles of tall books, feeling the texture of a cover that was warm under his fingertips, and opening a volume that showed a life by the sea. He saw a fisherman being pulled under a storm. The reading records that through this encounter, he was led to retrieve a memory of a choice in that past life, in which he had fled responsibility, and that recognizing the pattern loosened the knot of shame he had carried. The files note the reported outcome with appropriate caution. He later reported diminished panic upon waking and an increased ability to take small risks at work. But the archivist appends a reminder that such changes were self-reported and accompanied by conventional psychotherapy. The library cases are the ones in the archive that most often combine retrieval and practical insight. You encounter patterns, you are given a symbol, often a water image for unresolved emotional wounds, and you are handed a practice to integrate that insight into waking life. The researcher's notes in the files stress humility here. Access to the library does not erase consequence, but it can rearrange perception to create new possibilities. The third province is the highest light, and this is where the readings become the most consequential. Here, the tone in the transcripts shifts. People describe a swelling of sound, a sense of incontrovertible clarity, voices that are less counsel and more directive. The files preserve a notable case from the wartime years, reading 1877, tied to a man who, according to the session, received a precise warning during a nocturnal opening. The reading states that he was taken into a chamber of silver light, shown a map rendered as a thread of luminescent ink, and told a course of action that, as the document notes, he followed and later told the archivist that it had altered the course of events for a group of refugees. I do not present that as empirical validation. I present it as archival testimony. The session reports prophecy and a consequential decision, and the researcher recorded corroborating testimony from the man and 2 witnesses some months later. In the files, these highest light encounters are solemn. They bring mission, a sense of alignment with a purpose larger than the self. They also carry risk, the pull to act without discernment. The researcher's framing in the documents insists on grounded verification. Consult loved ones, test the guidance against moral clarity, because even the archive's most luminous reading may be shaped by the psyche's need for meaning. Mechanics in the files recur in language that blends metaphor and technique. The silver cord is the tether that allows you to roam and return. The soul blueprint is a personalized pattern of longing and gift the readings often depict as an engraving in light. Guides, sometimes called guardian guides or beings of light, appear with consistent roles. They soothe, they instruct, they block harmful attachment. The documented sessions also include procedural notes: how to set intention at bedtime, how to call protection, how to receive without clinging. Across files, the researcher's voice is steady: protect, intend, and maintain ordinary sense checks the next day. I want to pause here to give you a safety anchor before we move into the ritual. The practices I will describe are gentle and short. They are not invitations to deprivation, drug use, or prolonged trance. If you have a history of dissociation, psychosis, or severe trauma, seek guidance from a licensed professional before attempting extended dream work. If a practice triggers overwhelming emotion, stop, ground by touching a familiar object, and contact a support person or clinician. The files themselves often paired spiritual techniques with recommendations for ordinary care, sleep hygiene, medical evaluation, therapy, and I want you to know I am following that model. Now, the ritual. The files preserve several bedside patterns labeled in the researcher's notes as Cayce style, meaning simple, bedside-focused, and suited to people about to sleep. What follows is an adaptation, 10 minutes in duration, designed to quiet the heart and orient intention. Do this lying down, somewhere you feel safe. Set a pillow under your head so your neck is supported. The procedure is brief, practical, and I will give it as a flowing sequence so it reads like guidance in a recorded session. Begin with a minute of body scan breathing. Close your eyes. Bring attention to the place where anxiety lives in your chest. Breathe in for a slow count of 4, hold for 2, release for 6. Imagine on the out-breath that a cord of warm light empties the tightness. After about a minute, allow the breath to become natural but deliberate. For the next 2 minutes, call in white light. This is a familiar protective image in the archive. White light described as a gentle field rather than a blinding beam. Picture a soft egg of white light above you at the level of your forehead. Imagine it lowering like a net of warmth, settling like a blanket over the torso, bright at the crown and becoming a warming presence at the heart. If preferred, name a phrase that grounds you. Be held, I am safe, or a short line from your tradition. Say it softly 3 times. The files often note that naming intention helps direct the field. Intention is the hand that guides a dream. Then spend 3 minutes on the silver cord and the tether. Visualize a fine ribbon of silver light connecting the center of your chest to a warm, radiant point below your navel, and also streaming down through the bed into the earth. In the archive, readers describe the cord as luminous and flexible. Imagine it gentle, elastic, and secure. Picture that if you ever feel pulled during a dream, you can tug gently and feel the cord respond. This practice, simple visualization, was repeated in numerous readings as a stabilizing act. For the next 2 minutes, set an incubation intention. Dream incubation is the art of asking. Keep the request small, specific, and framed as service. Rather than asking for victory, ask for clarity, insight, or guidance how to be of service in a small situation. A sample intention recorded in several files is, show me one thing I can do tomorrow to ease the suffering I see. Hold the intention lightly, do not demand. The researcher's notes emphasize that humility matters here. Ask as a student rather than as an ultimatum. Finish with a final minute of grounding. Imagine roots of warm light extending from your heels into the earth. Feel the bed supporting you. Breathe 3 slow, full breaths and affirm quietly, I will return, I am held. When you feel ready, let sleep come. Those 10 minutes are a template. The files show this sequence or variations of it repeated with different clients. Some added prayer, others invoked a named guide. The archives also contain after-session notes. The person who used a short, calm bedside practice often reported less night waking, lower heart rate variability reported as calmer in their experience, and more coherent dream recall. Remember to treat those outcomes as reported and anecdotal. They are not medical proof. Pair this practice with good sleep hygiene, dark room, cool temperature, no late stimulants, and with talk or somatic therapy when deeper patterns emerge. A short illustrative vignette will show how the ritual can be folded into recovery. Reading 904 records a mother named Marta who used a 4-minute variant of this ritual after long months of caregiving. In the session, she described the ritual's white light enveloping a small child version of herself in the dream, a soft exchange that left her waking with a sense of replenishment. The files say she later reported reduced panic and a clearer capacity for restful sleep. The researcher annotated that she was also in ongoing therapy and under a physician's care. This contextual note is crucial and repeated in the archive's conclusions. There are always complicating cases. Several files recount experiences where intention was set for contact, but the dreamer felt entangled instead. Sudden dread, repetitive imagery that returned day after day, and the sense of a presence overstaying its welcome. In those reports, the researcher recommended immediate grounding, calling on a named protective image, and, when necessary, ritual unbinding. Speak aloud that you release any attachment and ask for a guide to assist. The files never advise lone, prolonged trance work in such cases. They counsel care, community, and sometimes professional support. You may be wondering how to tell whether a nocturnal experience comes from a benign guide or from shadowed attachment. The archive's consistent heuristic is threefold. Did the encounter leave you calmer and more oriented in the morning? Did it offer practical, morally coherent counsel? And did it invite integration rather than isolation? If the answer is no to any of these, treat it with caution. Journal the dream, speak it with a trusted friend or clinician, and revert to the protective practices, white light, silver cord, naming intention, before sleep. Before I pause, I want to return to the wartime reading because it is the clearest example in the files where the highest light reading intersects with consequential action. The documents record a man, exhausted, who was shown a luminous map and given a course of action that he later said prevented harm to people under his charge. The researcher's notes include witness statements and a sober insistence. Even when prophecy appears precise in the nighttime realm, test it in the light of day. Seek corroboration and prioritize the welfare of others. This is not the romantic prophecy of folklore. It is responsibility. The archive frames the highest light as a call, not a license. I will leave you here for a moment. Breathe, imagine the soft net of white light above your head, feel the cord at your chest. In the next segment, I will guide you through a brief spoken script you can use in those 10 minutes, words that many of the archived readers used or adapted, and then we will examine a few common obstacles: intrusive imagery, fragmented recall, and how to journal for integration so that what you bring back from the night becomes usable in the day. For now, hold the image of your heart calming and the knowledge that the files show recurring patterns of consolation and guidance, if the conditions are set with intention and care. When you are ready, lie down and breathe in the soft light. Softly speak these words aloud, steady and unhurried. Use them as a frame. Change names and images as needed. Leave pauses where you need breath. Highest light. I set this space with clear intention. I ask for guidance that brings peace and wise counsel. Surround me with white light. Let it form a gentle net above my head. Anchor me to my chest with a silver cord of safety. If a guide appears, let it be one who brings clarity, not confusion. Show me what I need, in a way I can carry into my waking day. Thank you for protection and for signs I can test. Amen. If you prefer a shorter version for tight sleep time, light above, cord at my chest, guide of truth, show me what helps. Hold me. Thank you. After the invocation, place one hand over your heart. Breathe 4 slow counts in, 6 out. If an image or voice arises, note its tone and the first word that comes to you. Do not chase the dream. Let it pass as if along a riverbank. If fear rises, name it aloud. I name this fear. Name. I give it back to the light. Visualize the white net drawing tight and sealing any thread that feels like an attachment. Common obstacles and practical responses. Intrusive imagery. Stop the escalation. Open the palm, breathe, and say a boundary phrase. This image has no power over my day. Walk your attention back to a present sense. Feel the mattress beneath your shoulder blades, wiggle your toes. Use a container. Imagine placing the image into a small box, lock it with light, and set it on a high shelf. You can revisit later in daylight with a trusted person. If the imagery is persistent or frightening, interrupt the night practice. Speak aloud that you release any attachment, call the protective image by name, and follow with simple grounding. Feet on floor, glass of water, steady breath. Seek support from a clinician if distress continues. Fragmented recall. Don't force detail in the moment. Lie still and breathe, allowing one sensory thread to surface, a color, a word, a scent.
Record that fragment immediately. Voice memo if you cannot write. Use microprompts. Who was there? What did I feel? What object stood out? Even single word notes create a map you can expand later. If fragments feel like puzzle pieces, wait until daylight. Movement, showering, walking, often stitches memory into narrative. Journaling for integration. Start with 2 columns, image and word, and morning feeling. Write the fragment and the emotion that lingered. Ask 3 questions beneath each entry. 1. What might this be asking me to notice? 2. Is there a practical step I can take today? 3. Who should I tell about this? Friend, therapist, spiritual director? Extract a single, small action from each entry and schedule it. A phone call, a short apology, 10 minutes of reflection, a boundary you will try. Integration is not interpretation alone, it is a change in how you live. Track patterns weekly. Repeating symbols, recurring tones, or similar moral counsel across nights suggest material for focused work in therapy or a disciplined ritual of change. When the night gift feels like guidance rather than spectacle, test it in daylight. Ask, does this counsel make for more safety, care, and coherent action for those affected? If it does, let it become a small practice. If it isolates or demands harm, release it. Breathe now, hand on chest. Feel the slow net of light above you. Let the words you chose settle into the tissue of the body. If a presence comes, greet it. Note its first gift. Then breathe into waking readiness. When sleep returns, trust the container you have set.